Thank you, Mary, and my sincere thanks to your whole team for all they do each day to support access to education by refugees and displaced students. We're very humbled to have you leading this work and all the work that IAE does in this space. I also want to sincerely thank the opening panelists, Alan, Elizabeth, and John. Thank you for being such strong advocates and supporters of this work. All of us are very humbled to work for and with the institutions you lead. And I want to reiterate our sincere thanks to the Catalyst Foundation, especially John and Liz. It seems like only yesterday that we were thinking about how this program could have an impact down in your offices at Washington Square. And it's really inspiring to see what's been accomplished to date. And you've literally increased access for hundreds, if not thousands of students around the world through the peer platform. And we're going to be hearing from some beneficiaries of this work over the next 3 days who are really the best spokespeople for its impact. I'll just make a couple brief remarks about IIE's commitment to this work, which is steadfast. And our vision is very much that our student emergency work serves to amplify refugee voices, which is why they're so central to the next 3 days, pilot innovative models, and serve as a resource for financial support for students in need. And we really see the peer platform as the anchor of this work. There are more than 500 educational opportunities listed on the platform and over 70,000 active users. We're continually adding new features to expand users and usability. Through support from Catalyst, we've also launched the Peer Bridge Scholarships, where we've been able to support more than 30 students on the Thai-Myanmar border to pursue higher education. Over the years, we've also been able to provide hundreds of scholarships to Syrian students around the world. You'll meet 2 of them today. This work would not have been possible without more than 80 university partners around the world and funding from key foundations, including Mellon, Carnegie, Open Society, Ford, and numerous other donors. Another donor collaborative supported the Julius Stash Scholarship Program, which awarded support to refugee students in Chicago to attend community college. And we've also this year launched 2 pilots seeking to support students not only virtually, but especially during the pandemic. One in partnership with University of the People, and we're very grateful that Shai Reshef is able to join us this morning. And another with edX. Both will be supporting master's and micromasters programs for refugee and displaced students. For the edX program, for which we're able to support 20 students, we received 1,300 applications, demonstrating the enormous demand for education from talented refugee students. These students will be future leaders in fields like data science, agribusiness, the humanities, healthcare management, and many more. And I'm very excited to announce that IIE is currently working with its board of trustees and hopes to launch this spring a new refugee scholarship program that will provide full financial and advising support for 12 graduate and undergraduate students annually in Latin America, the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Southeast Asia. This is also a model we hope to scale up with partners across the higher education and private sectors. I'm joined today by a panel that is equally committed to taking action to address the educational needs of refugee and displaced students. I would like to welcome them. We'll first hear opening remarks from Husam Basemah, an IAE scholarship recipient for Syrian students. And then each of our panelists will speak for about 10 minutes and we'll have time for Q&A. So I'd like to ask all of 4 of them to turn on their cameras. And it's my pleasure to introduce them, and I'll introduce them in the order they'll speak, and then I'll go through queuing you based on time allotments for your sessions. So Husam Basemah is a recipient of the IAE Scholarship for Syrian Students. Husam received an IAE Syria Scholarship in 2017 to study physics and applied mathematics at Memorial University in Canada. While studying, he co-founded and led a team of students to successfully create a new student-funded full scholarship for refugees. Ever since then, his team has been able to sponsor 1 refugee student per year, allowing them to travel to Canada to study at Memorial University for free. Husam will then be followed by Dorothea Rüland, most recently the Secretary General of the German Academic Exchange Service, the DAAD. She's joining us from Bonn, and on behalf of IAE, I want to thank Dorothea for all of her partnership during her more than 30 years of service to the DAAD. During her tenure, she led the development and implementation of numerous programs to support the integration of refugees at German universities. Dorothea will be followed by Dr. Shai Reshef, the founder and president of University of the People, who John spoke extensively about in our opening. With over 25 years of experience in international education, Dr. Reshef leads the world's first tuition-free, nonprofit accredited online academics institution dedicated to opening access to higher education. Today, University of the People enrolls thousands of refugee students. As I mentioned, IIE and University of the People just launched a pilot program to support refugees, and we look forward to implementing it and hopefully growing it in years to come. So thank you for joining us, Shai. And then finally, Ehab Badwi serves as the CEO of the Syrian Youth Assembly. Ehab is also an IIE Syria scholarship recipient, studying political science at Bard College in Berlin. Ehab joins us from Berlin and has also spent the past 6 years working on youth peace building issues at the local and global level. And so I'd like to turn now, first, thank you all for joining us. I'd like to turn to Husam to share with us an overview of his story and also what inspired him to provide more financial support for other Syrian refugees. Over to you, Husam.
Thank you so much. Is my audio clear? Okay, perfect, yeah. Hi everyone, thank you so much for your time. My name is Husam Basemah. I'm a physics and math student. I was 12 years old when the war in Syria started in 2011. I don't remember a lot from how things looked like before the war, but I do remember seeing firsthand the effects of the war on the educational system slowly since 2011, and what the implications of that were on the country as a whole. As I was studying, I was still in school, and I was always wondering whether, especially since when I was getting closer to graduating from high school, I was wondering how that will be affecting the country as a whole, as education is a very important to building a society in general. And what would the solution be? And I got to think about that more analytically over time. Since I received the IA scholarship, one of the solutions that I always thought of, which is something that helped me personally, which is a scholarship, is a solution to helping the Syrian youth and youth who were affected by war. Is the solution to helping them, providing more scholarships, and how effective is that solution? So here's my story that can show you the real effect of one scholarship that sponsors one student. When I was in high school, I did not speak English until the last 2 years of high school. I learned English as a second language after school, and then I applied to so many scholarships. Thankfully, I got the IAE Syria scholarship, and then I traveled to Canada to study at Memorial University. In my second semester, I met a group of students who were also very passionate about helping youth affected by conflicts and refugees who do not have access to post-secondary education. And we had a plan. We partnered with a nonprofit organization in Canada called World University Service of Canada. The partnership was as follows. They would arrange the necessary tests and the process of accepting a scholar through a full scholarship who is a refugee. And our role, in order to travel to Canada and study at our university, our role was to provide funding every year. So your job is to get $50,000 a year. Go. So as a group of students who were, it was very challenging, but the method that we followed was the following. we campaigned for, we initiated a referendum at the university, asking every student whether they were in favor or against paying $2 per semester to fund the scholarship of one refugee student every year. 100% of the money collected would go to sponsoring refugees, and the challenge was to get enough students to participate in the election. In order to pass, we needed over 2/3 of the students to vote yes, and we needed over 10% of the student population to participate. We organized volunteering teams. We trained students on campaigning. We worked with professors to hold class announcements. We talked to students in cafeterias. We went to the media. We spoke on television, on radio stations, on newspapers. And thankfully, we won the referendum by 93%. And ever since then, $2 every semester is collected from every student at Memorial University to sponsor one refugee student every year. And actually, the first student arrived, and we're very close friends. Initiatives like this are an example of what the real impact of one scholarship can be. Students and scholars who are supported through scholarships like the IIE Scholarship for Syrian Students don't just get the education and stop. They continue on doing their best to help other students as well, to help students who haven't traveled yet, to help students who are maybe in lack of resources and lack of support. The effect of these scholarships has a rippling effect that gets wider and wider over time. And the earlier we start, the more students we can reach. And it's very important not to underestimate the effect of sponsoring one more student and supporting one more student who can, at the end, after traveling and after studying and after acquiring the skills necessary and having access to the networks and other scholars outside, to be able to help other students back and to be able to reach our common goal of helping students who are affected by conflicts and making our support reach a larger scale. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Husam. And one of the things that I think is most exciting about this panel is it demonstrates that everyone is involved to really move the needle on educating refugees, from your student organizing to government to higher education. And so building on that, I'd like to turn over to Dorothea to speak about your work with the DAAD and within Germany to provide access to education and integrate refugee students.
Yeah, Jonah, thank you so much. And congratulations, Husam. I'm very much impressed by the initiative which you started over there in Canada. Congratulations for 5 years of peer. I think this is a real success story, but still, as Alan mentioned, a lot is to be done because we do see that numbers of refugees worldwide are still increasing tremendously. And we all do know that higher education is a door opener for a brighter, sustainable future. So what can we do? I speak here on behalf of DAAD. This is the organization in Germany channeling refugees into our higher education system, mostly since the year 2015, similar to other organizations all over Europe in the respective countries. But we do not only work in Germany, but abroad as well. We'll come to this later. What can we do? What we need is a kind of holistic approach. It's quite a complex topic we are talking about, and you all have your individual experiences. There are different dimensions. The first one we talked a lot about is integration of refugees into our societies and the university systems all over the Western world. What we do need, of course, is a functioning framework. This was a learning journey, I think, as Alan mentioned before as well, with different components to make it work, from recognizing skills and qualifications, discussing degrees, ensuring academic qualification for admission. Language plays a very important role, and subject-related preparation. Supporting of integration at the universities is quite an issue. And now in many universities in Germany, we are in the situation that we have to enable transition from university into the labor market. Today, if you look at Germany, we have around 25,000 refugees enrolled at German universities. We don't know the exact numbers because as soon as you register at a German university, there is no status as a refugee. You are just an international student as all other international students. This is something special to Germany because we don't charge fees. I know this looks quite different in other countries and is an issue of discussion. This is one dimension. The other dimension I want to mention is integration in the region and in neighboring countries, again with scholarships or projects. We are doing this sometimes with funding from the European Union, with European partners as well, in Jordan, in Turkey, Egypt, in many countries around Syria, and with German scholarships as well. But there is one aspect not many people talk about, and this is quite close to my heart. I would say this is the third dimension, and it starts much earlier. What can we as educators or funding organizations do to offer opportunities and prevent people from leaving the country? Because in general, people don't want to leave the country. Syrians, I've met so many. I had a Syrian student living at my house. They love the country. And many of the Syrians we do have in Germany, they are working on projects. They want to go back to their home country. They want to help to reconstruct the country after the war. So I think this, I think, is a very important task for the future. We have to think about what can we do in the respective countries. If there is a war, sometimes there is no other option than to leave the country. But in many countries, people, they don't see a future for themselves or for their kids, so they decide to leave. We have to offer opportunities in these countries, might be because of climate change, draft, or whatsoever. I think we should discuss much more on crisis prevention and on our contribution to that. What are the different instruments we might use? You already mentioned, and Husam is best practice for that, scholarships. Scholarships on many different levels. They can be in country, they can be in the region, or they can be scholarships to come to our countries for further education. And we all run many programs for that all over the world. Not to forget a very large program, not managed actually by DAAD, but by our Foreign Office and UNHCR, the so-called DAFI program, supporting every year thousands of young people in 51 countries. Scholarships is one important instrument, but I think again we need a kind of long-term engagement. We have to build structures. We have to build partnership schemes, cooperations and centers between local universities and universities abroad. I think this might be a very important way for the future to have more outreach, more impact, offering opportunities in the home country. This is how we work with many countries, for example, in Africa, Afghanistan, or Iraq. But to make it very clear, and we just had an evaluation on our work in Afghanistan, it only will work if there is enough funding available and if there is a real long-term commitment. And of course, security plays a very important role. To mention a few others, talking again about Syria, we just started a program, Train the Trainers. We invite, or German universities to invite Syrian lecturers from Syria, from neighboring countries for further training with German universities. So whenever there is a chance to go back, that they can go back to the respective universities to support them to rebuild. And we will start a new rescue program because we see there are so many crises from Ethiopia to Myanmar. So we start a new rescue program for students and young academics in emergencies. And we should not forget about new opportunities of digitalization. We learn so much in the last year. You know, all our universities, they switched to a digital mode. We should learn these lessons. We need the personal contact, but via digitalization, we have so many options to reach more people and offer them a chance for education. But we have to be aware of the digital divide. Another thing, I think we have to keep awareness alive. And therefore, this meeting is so important. Thanks again to Alan and the colleagues from IIE to make it work, actually. We talk so much about COVID, and frankly speaking, we are so fed up. We do see it in our society, and congratulations. If we talk about the vaccine, we talked about this before. We are doing a great job in the United States. We still have to wait a little bit. There are so many other crises we have to be aware of, and we have to be aware that more than nobody knows exactly whether there are 70 million or 80 million refugees all over the world. We should care for them. We live in one world. This was mentioned before by Elizabeth and by Steve, and it's our responsibility to offer opportunities for education. For all this, we need more cooperation, cooperation between the countries, cooperation between the different institutions. Therefore, thanks again to IIE, and I always love to keep in touch with you and think about new ideas, new programs, new ways of cooperation. We need joint initiatives and more learning from each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dorothea, and thank you for everything that you've accomplished at the DAAD. And I very much look forward to discussing some of the important questions that you've raised in your presentation. I'd like to now turn to Shai Reshef, the founder and president of University of the People.
Thank you, Jonah, and thanks Alan and John Sexton and everyone else, and Dorothea and Husam and everyone else that was on this interesting and important session. I think that what IIE is doing is amazing, as was said before, extremely important, especially this time where we have a world crisis that is just growing of refugees, and the pandemic is not making it easier, but actually making it worse. I would like to spend a few minutes to tell you about what we do at University of the People. And I think that the importance of what we do is more as a model for others to replicate. University of the People is the first nonprofit, tuition-free, accredited American online university that dedicated to opening the gates of higher education for every qualified student, no matter where they come from, no matter what their financial or personal or political situation. And as I'm sure many of you know, UNESCO stated that in 2025, there will be 100 million students around the world that will not have seats in the then existing universities. Simply 100 million people who will be deprived from higher education, not because they're not qualified, simply because there aren't seats for them. And this is the statistics even before the pandemic, where the situation got even worse. We at University of the People, we have over 57,000 students from over 200 countries. We double every year. So we are growing extremely fast and trying to serve as many students as we can, as well as showing the world that higher education can be accessible, affordable, with the right quality for every qualified student. A quarter of our students are from the US, but 3/4 are coming from all over the world. Any students with sufficient English and internet connection, and obviously high school diploma, is welcoming to start with us and pursue higher education as long as they meet our standards. The idea is to offer our students a better chance for the future. Our students coming to us from hardship. We have survivors of the genocide in Rwanda, the earthquake in Haiti. In the US, we have a lot of homeless students, and we have a lot of refugees. I'll talk about the refugees in a second, but since most of our students are coming from hardship, we give them personalized attention to ensure that those who need personal attention get it. We put them in classes of 20 to 30 students. And actually, every time a student takes a class, he meets 20 to 30 students from 20 to 30 different countries. The idea is to mix them with students from around the world, to open their mind for other students that might be considered enemies from other countries, but to make them part of the global community. We believe that it's an important part of their studies. We are the opportunity for those who have no other opportunity. Out of our 57,000 students, over 6,000 are refugees. And roughly half of these 6,000 are Syrian. So we took more students than any other university in the world, and to my knowledge, more than all the universities in the world combined. We took over 6,000 students, and actually because the last 2 years, we were approached by 125,000 Arab-speaking students, mainly Syrian, who were unable to study with us because of the language. We decided to open a university in Arabic. So starting last September, we teach business administration in Arabic for Arab-speaking students, mainly Syrian. And the idea is that while they are studying with us, we develop English language learners program. So while they study in Arabic for the first 2 years, they also study English. So we hope that after 2 years, they will master the English language to the point that they will be able to transfer to study with the rest of our global community in English. If they can't make it, they will be able to complete their BA in Arabic. While other universities has accepted, as I mentioned, handful of students, we feel that it's a drop in the bucket. There are hundreds of thousands of refugees from all over the world who are looking for higher education opportunities. When we think about it, there is no way that universities will be able to accommodate all these students. The way to do it is by giving them online opportunities. Because when you think about it, our ability to take 6,000 refugees is because we are online. And in the online setting, there are no limits of opportunities. Nobody needs to stand in the back of the lecture hall, and we can accommodate all the needs that are there. So online is the solution, and higher education is the way to lift them. So we must offer them this opportunity, and COVID actually showed us that online is a real alternative. If until, we started 12 years ago, and for years we were on the margin. People tend to say the real thing is face-to-face. Online is on the margin. It's not the real thing. Now everyone moved to online, and actually we are now helping universities to move online because we are the mainstream. They're trying to understand how to do it. But the lesson that we should take from it is that there is a solution for all the hundreds of thousands of refugees, and we can solve it instantly online. Yes, online is not necessarily good for everyone. It's not the perfect solution for every single student, but for those who can make it, it is a perfect solution. In our case, as I said, we do it in a small classroom. We do it as a very interactive pedagogy, so the students talk to each other and talk to the professor constantly. So there is a pedagogy behind it to make sure that they get the right treatment, the right service. We decided, because we are growing so fast and because we can accommodate so many, we decided to pledge to UNHCR to accept 25,000 students in the year 2030. We are sure that we'll meet it, and we are sure actually that we can do even more than that if given the resources, because as I said, we double every year, and if we have now 6,000 students, and you do the math, it will be before 2030. But 25,000 that we committed is actually, we ourselves commit to 5% of the total of the UNHCR goal for 2030. And I think that we together, if others will embrace it, we can have many more than 15%, and that's the UNHCR goal, to accommodate them. And I think that we should do it. By the way, it is the time to thank IAE, who are helping fund scholarship for refugees pursuing master degree with us. And I think that this is a great initiative. I would like to thank Alan and the entire IAE for this great initiative. We believe that not only it is important, it should be done by others and for more. I would like also to mention that we have a program with the University of Edinburgh to accept our students, our Syrian students who reside in the US after 2 years with us, to transfer to Edinburgh to complete their BA degree. And we just announced a week ago another agreement with McGill University of Canada, where our associate degree graduate can transfer to McGill. Hopefully many of them will be refugees to complete the degree there. And we have other partnership with LIU and with the Ifat University of Saudi Arabia. So we're trying to open more and more opportunities for refugees. I think that what we do is just a model. We have not invented the wheel. We took everything that is available online and created tuition-free online university. Others can do the same. They should do the same, because there are so many people, and refugees obviously are crying for help, and we can help them, and we should do it. And we on our part are willing to help anyone see what we do and help them do the same, because the need is so huge that others should jump on board and make it happen. So thank you for inviting me and letting me the opportunity to share our experience, and looking forward for continuing this great conference. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Shai, and thanks for everything you do for not only your students, but the universities that you're partnering with. I think we'll turn now to Ehab, who will speak to us about the work of the Syrian Youth Assembly and his own experience.
Yes, hello everyone. Thanks for having me today. Very happy to try to share some of my experience. I'm Ehab Badwi. I'm Syrian student, Syrian refugee. I'm studying at Bard College Berlin, political science. I'm working as CEO and founder of the Syrian Youth Assembly. Like, in sharing from our experience and our work, what we are doing with the young refugee and also young Syrian who is living inside Syria. Because we believe those people who is outside Syria, they have good opportunity, where the other inside, they don't have anything else because of the bad situation people live in. And this is what we try to do in our program, to not forget anyone, not just only young refugee, but also people who are still over there in Syria. Like, our group, it started in 2016 from the World Humanitarian Summit in Istanbul, where we get to meet other Syrian students. We try to have conversation about what the challenge we face as young people, and how we can help each other to try to find solution can help us and support us. And the main need, it was about the access for higher education for those young refugees. Like, because as well, they try to educate themselves with the new education trying to coming up, new technology trying to coming up, and how it's easy for them to access university. Like, people who are in Germany, for example, have to learn German to be able to go university, or people who is in Turkey have to learn Turkish to be able to go to university, and to try to find other solution and other tools can give them access to higher education. Like, our program started in 2016 as a small group of young people who are trying to help others others and trying to bring them more opportunity. Later, we try to find ourselves, we are able to bring other young people with us to give them more opportunity to organize different workshops, to organize different sessions and many different things. But also we still speaking about we need to give young people the access to higher education and also online. Why online? Because for us it was important to give the access to everyone, to give the access to young women, to give the access to young people, addressing all the problems from security, for place, in every way where we can include everything. In this moment, actually, we get to be in contact and in partnership with Coursera. Coursera launched a program for refugee, where it means give the access to young people, young refugee, to Coursera platform at all for free. And we start to organize this program and to work with this and to come more specialized with the courses Coursera have. As we know, Coursera courses, it's designed and produced by different universities, where it's really high quality and also updated with the technology, with the updated education we have. And from this way, we try to design different study tracks where the student can take different courses and they somehow can be qualified, and one thing can help them to access job market, or try as well to give them a new opportunity to continue later to study. Because one of the challenge actually we face always as young Syrian, let's say, when we start to study or decide to move to study in Europe, for example, or in US, like the education system is totally different. We speak about education system in Syria we live in different than education system in Europe. And those opportunities we try to give online, it helps us and to prepare us to understand what's mean being in education system in Europe. Like for example, on our side, in my university, as I have a diploma in mechanical engineering before, I never write an essay or I never given a presentation in school, where this is totally different in my school right now here in Berlin. But this is, I have no idea before about how I have to do it. Where this is as well, online give us the opportunity to try to give young people who preparing themselves to study the opportunity to build some of the knowledge and experience with this. Absolutely as well, like with the whole support I received from my university, in part College Berlin, preparing for being able to start studying in the university as well after long time from not being in school, I remember about 5 years, and then back again, where this preparation to be a student again. Also in the Syrian Youth Assembly, we try to support about different opportunity, like for example, preparing with language, where we try to get to have partnership with Babel and also give young people the access to higher education with this. As well, many others opportunity and program, one of them University of the People as well, one of them it was with Duolingo, one of them it was with Ampos, with many different opportunity. And actually to speak about the impact today, after 4 years from having all those program, we have officially more than 40,000 active students in our Coursera program, where those people get to be able to achieve more than 1 million hours of study, spend it more than 200,000 courses from the Coursera courses we provide. In the same times as well, to get to be able to build a network of those young people, including more than 100,000 people, those people who is interested, always looking for different opportunity to study, to improve their skills. And also with many success story we hear from those people. One of them actually who is living in Turkey, who get the opportunity right now to be an English teacher. The story, it's a start about in Syria, if you study to be an English teacher, it's enough to have the certificate from university. But if you need to go to teach in Turkey, for example, you have to have TESOL certificate to be able to teach. And this is, it's mean in Turkey, it's going to cost around 1,200 euro, and this is too much for refugee living there. We provide this certificate for free for many young people who get to have it online, and then later to prepare themselves to be teacher in Turkey and to have access to job market. As well, we're trying to follow the tech sector, which where right now we have a new partnership with Data Camp happened last week as well, to try to provide the access to young people to be as well updated, and let's say as well as a refugee, as Syrian, to try to stay in the same international level of education. When we try to provide something outside where those young people inside the country, they don't have the possibility to access. Like the war in Syria actually take many of our professors, take many of our teachers, the good people who really build the education system in Syria. And we try right now to support young people who is inside right now with many different opportunities from outside. And this is absolutely appreciated from the university of the people as well, when we try to see how they try to push and to support the people inside as well from different way, as well edX, as well Coursera, with all those online platforms. Like with our experience today, with the impact we have, like we have thousands of young people, and in the end, all of us volunteer. We do this for voluntary work, as we are young people try to take the responsibility in our society. And actually the big support I get as well, to be able as young refugee living here in Germany, to be able to establish all this and to be organized as well. It's really starts from my university, where the help try to be from the civil engagement office to help us to understand how we can work and to lead all this. And this is as well where I always appreciate it. We are as young refugee, I believe, let's say, we have the opportunity to be able to help and support each other. And this is can be always when someone believe in our experience and believe in us as well as a human, as people, let's say, smart enough to be able to lead themselves. They just looking for tools can help them to change the world and try to create a better world for themselves as well and the others. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Ehab, and my sincere thanks to all of the panelists. And for those of you joining us, feel free to type any questions into the Q&A area, and I'll field your questions. I thought I would start with a question for the group based on something that Ehab said at the end, which is, talking about the work of the Syria Youth Assembly and connecting students to the job market. And one thing that I'm always really astonished by when I review applications for scholarship programs we have for refugees is what a potential asset the Syrian students or other refugee and displaced students are to key economic sectors and potentially employers across the public and private sectors. So I thought maybe we could start with Dorothea, and then Shai, if you wanted to share about within the programs or the university that you work on, what you've done to really create a pipeline for students from their higher education and training to the job market.
Jonah, thank you very much. I think this is a very important issue because the labor market looks quite different in each country. Labor market in Turkey is different from Germany, and it's quite, again, different from United States or Canada. So we introduced a program which we call Profi, to support universities to offer special trainings for graduate students who want to take up work where, however. We do support them to employ people for these training programs. We call it career centers. We offer certain courses in soft skills, how to present yourself, how to write a CV. A German CV looks totally different from American CV, and all this kind of skills. In general, you don't learn this, at least not at a German university. But if you want to be successful on the labor market, then you have to have certain trainings in this field. This we introduced. And as you know, Germany is an aging society. We need people from abroad. If we want to keep our standard, if we want to have a strong economy, we need young people from all over the world. We have a high percentage of foreign students, of international students, and quite a majority is interested at least to stay for a couple of years, perhaps not forever, but to study in a country and to learn something about the work of labor makes a lot of sense. And perhaps with the networks you build, you might go back to your home country and build up your own company or go back as a professor or whatsoever. So I only can say it's a kind of win-win situation for both sides, for foreign students and refugees as well. We look at them as international students in Germany, or for our own society.
Thank you very much. And Shai, I'd welcome hearing what University of the People is doing to prepare students for careers after university.
Yeah, sure. And I can't agree more with Dorothea. I mean, the difference between the countries is so huge. I mean, when you look at CV, some of them have pictures, marriage status, number of kids, others, it's like unheard of, even if in other countries, to even ask this question. So it's really varied from one country to the other. What we do is, first of all, we build a career service center with so first of all, I would say that we have students from 200 countries, and we try to go to what is pretty much custom in most countries, but you know, sometimes you miss, yes. But we teach them how to, we have a group of courses, and we encourage the students to take courses, and it's like how to open your LinkedIn page, how to prepare for an interview, how to search for an interview. So all these skills in order to, and how do you search for a new job online? So this is one thing that we try to help, we have to try to help our students with. The second thing that I think that is as important is going even before. We teach the students those, we only, because our students come to us from hardship, and they don't come to us in order to enrich their mind, they come to us in order to have a better chance for their future. We teach them liberal arts and we want to make them well-rounded individuals, but that's not why they come to us. They come to us in order to have a better future for them, for their families, for their communities, and hopefully their countries. Therefore, we chose the degrees that are most likely to help them find a job: business administration, computer science, health science, and education. The degrees that are most in demand worldwide. But there is another thing that is important for these degrees, and especially if we talk about business administration and computer science, those of them who are entrepreneurs can start their own business. Moreover, many of these students can work remotely. Many international countries hire people working from any countries they live in. And we build the programs in a way that many of our students, when they graduate, can stay where they are and work remotely with international companies. We are still working on building it, and we are a young university, so 92% of our graduates are employed, including refugees, but it's not the full picture because our students, most of them work while studying. So the question should be, in a few years when we have a lot of graduates, are they still, most of them are being employed, and whether they got promoted and they are employed in their field of studies. We are still too young to give data that will be representative from this perspective, but we feel that the field that we chose and teaching the students how to find a job, that's the right thing to do. We should do more, and we need to learn how to do it more, and especially how to define between different countries, because yes, I mean, in different countries, the job opportunities are different, and the skills that are being required to find a job is different as well.
Thank you. And Ehab, Husam, would you want to add anything in terms of what you're thinking about in your own transition from university to the workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. So if from my experience of speaking to students who are in Syria, many of my friends are facing the exact same issue. So if we think about what we're trying to accomplish here, in order for a student to start their career, they need two things. They need the skills, and they need to be able to market themselves, to utilize these skills in different companies. So gaining these skills was something that we just discussed, which is that can be achieved through scholarships and opportunities to study, and institutions like University of the People, where students can gain the skills even from home. But the barrier here, one of the most challenging barriers that students face here is the language. If you look at the second part of marketing themselves to companies, they also face the exact same barrier, which is the language. I want to say it's important to look at the scale of the challenges that we're facing here when we're trying to help the students. The challenge that has the largest scale, in my opinion, from speaking to students who are facing these problems is the language. So I want to say, don't underestimate the effect that programs like what was just mentioned about the offering a program in the University of the People in Arabic and teaching students English over 2 years. That's going to have a large effect. Of the scale of this is very important. Students are suddenly going to be able to study English without having to pay so much in fees at home, they will have access to English teachers who are highly qualified, and that's going to allow them to access more opportunities, like even the resources online from not necessarily from academic institutions, but the information that you can find online itself. Like I'm working with a group of students right now on an entrepreneurial project, and if I didn't speak English, there are countless resources that I'm using online that I wouldn't have been able to use. So I would say where we start is learning language accessible, and then to go further, making the language tests accessible, as it's also challenging for students to pay so much in fees, as much as their salary of like 6 months just to take the test. Yeah, that's what I think where we should start.
Yeah, I think from my side, the question it starts always about why we are doing that. Like for us, when we try to think about we are doing that as youth assembly, supporting Syrian students who's living inside or outside. The first reason actually it's come to us about we need to build peace. And how it's mean build peace? Start to build peace with those people. Let them build their own peace and let them feel in peace. Like for example, as well, trying to involve young people in peace process. No one will care about the democracy. No one care about the peace if they are not able to access the job market to find their own job, their opportunity, their ability to study. And from this point, actually, we start to raise it up about, look, you have the opportunity right now to study, and using some different opportunity online, it's better than nothing. It's right now the opportunity to have new skills and to build more skills can give you more opportunity and more chance to be able to access the job market. In the same times as well, when we speak about the job market and trying to speak about Syria after 10 years of war, like we speak about data science today. I don't really remember that's data science that was famous in Syria in 2011. And after that's when we're trying to lose more and more from the opportunity to learn inside the country and how the situation difficult for those people, how it's important right now we are trying to fit this society again with all those opportunity from outside, like the opportunity University of the People trying to provide, the opportunity we're trying to provide by Coursera, by edX, by the support as well from scholarship we're trying to get from DAAD, from IIE, all those actually trying to help and to support to rebuild those humans who are able to rebuild our country again. It doesn't mean they have to go back, but they can rebuild from here. Like the opportunity we try to do as people who is outside and trying to build many different projects, trying to build many different way for those other who can able to study inside. This is as well it's matter. Like and as we say, like many of those young people who is missing always the tool, they are able really to understand, to study, to come to discover, but sometimes they missing the tool to access the higher education. And sometimes this tool, it's language. And this is always appreciated when we try to build some different programs, somehow eligible with those experience and skills of those young people.
Thank you very much. One of the sort of most impressive data points that Husam mentioned was that 93% of his fellow students voted to pay $2 a year for scholarships for refugee students. And I think there are very few issues on which 93% of people in any context can agree on something. And I would just say, for those of us who are at nonprofits or at a university or within the government, all of us are constantly trying to make the case for the need to support refugee students. And I guess I'm interested to know, with such a focus on ending the pandemic as well as getting our domestic economies started, if any of you are concerned that refugee education issues and refugee issues broadly may fall off the radar of governments and publics in the coming years. Maybe Dorothea, if you have thoughts.
You approached me?
Sure.
I lost it. Perhaps you switch to someone else. I just lost a little bit the line.
Sure, I would be interested. Are you concerned that with COVID and other urgent topics, that issues related to refugees may fall off of the public and government's radars in the coming years?
Yes, of course. This I tried to mention before. We are jumping from crisis to crisis. We had a financial crisis. We had the Syrian crisis. Now we have pandemic. I'm sure there will be other crises in a couple of years. And people just don't remember what happened just a couple of years ago. So I think awareness, therefore this meeting is so important. We always have to bring it to the public again. We live in one world, and we only can live a peaceful life if other people have a chance as well. It's simple like that. Yeah, and therefore we have to do something about it, especially institutions like IIE or this University of the People or DAAD and many other organizations as well. This is one of our tasks. We have a lot to do with politicians. We have a lot to do with society, and we always have to bring up these issues, and we have a responsibility. And therefore, I really admire what happened, and Husam mentioned at this university. People are willing to contribute, but you should not come with huge visions. People agree if you have a nice vision, but nothing will happen. Yeah. You have to start with small steps where everybody can join in. And this is so attractive about this idea, to hand in 2 or 5 euros or dollars or whatsoever doesn't make a difference for us, But if there are hundreds of people doing this, you can save a life.
Exactly. I want to add something related to the question that was actually discussed when we were thinking about launching the idea at Memorial University. We had a concern about, at first, we were looking at models of how other students at other universities who participate in this program collect the money. Some of them use fundraising campaigns, a fundraising dinner, for example, one-time donations, and that is all good. But what we were worried about is this being like this campaign being a trend that goes away, because you can only have a limited amount of attention. So when you have the attention of students at a Canadian university, you want to utilize it in a way that you create a project that is sustainable, that does not stop. That is why when we were having those discussions, we realized that it is going to be more difficult to like campaign for a project where you're asking for a continuous fee, and that came at making the project take longer to achieve, for example, require more volunteers and require more preparations. But it is important. I think it is our role as people who want to help and are able to reach people who want to help. So I considered it a moral responsibility, since I was fortunate enough to receive the scholarship, that now I have this ability to speak to all these students at Memorial University who want to help, but don't necessarily have a method of helping. So if we want to create a difference of scale that actually directly affects so many students who don't have access to post-secondary education, it is very important to think about the sustainability and make sure that this does not that the help that we're providing is not just a trend that is gonna fade away when the attention is at a lower scale, like 2 years or 3 years later.
I think you need a combination of top-down and bottom-up. What you are doing is bottom-up. What organizations like IIE, DAAD are doing is a bit more top-down, organizing conferences, talking to politicians. We have this conference in Berlin, Ehab, you took place, the other 1%, yeah? Initiatives where you can read something in the public or where you can watch it in TV. You have to bring these two levels, I think, together.
It's great. And there's a question that came in specifically about University of the People's model and how you've been able to scale it so significantly with such a small student to faculty member ratio. And I think it'd be great to hear you talk about how you identify so many faculty who are committed to providing time and expertise. Shai.
Sure. So our faculty, we have 23,000 volunteers. 15,000 of them are professors. They all come to us in order to help us with our mission, and they get all the, I'm a volunteer, our provost is a volunteer, our top academic leadership are the presidents, from John Sexton that was here earlier, that is the chairman of our president council, but include the presidents of Columbia and Berkeley and Edinburgh and McGill and IFAT University and University of Geneva, and Oxford. So a lot of people came to us in order to make this dream come true. However, we are tuition free, and actually I should have said it before, and it's good that this question came, does not mean that we are free. We expect the students to pay $120 per each end of course exam. So they study for free, all the material is free, but when they get to the exam, we expect them to pay $120 per each end of course exam, which means that a full BA is $4,800 US if they have the money. If they don't have the money, they get scholarships. So nobody is being sent away because they don't have this amount, but we as a university get this money either from the students or from scholarships. And this amount makes us sustainable. We have 57,000 students and we run on a budget of $13 million, which is, I don't think that there is any university with such number of students on such a small budget. And our ability to do so is first because we lean heavily on technology. Every place we can use technology, we use technology. We operate from every part of the world where we can achieve quality at a reduction of price. So our academics are mainly in the US. Our operation is from the Middle East. All of our IT is being developed in Ramallah, Palestine. We have a big group of staff supporting students in India and in Africa. Moreover, we don't have buildings. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of volunteers to serve in very critical positions at the university. By the way, to talk about the specific question about the instructors, and the instructors come to us as volunteers and we treat them as volunteers. However, when they teach the classes, we pay them honorarium actually to compensate them and to show them that our gratitude, but also we ensure that they cannot walk away in the middle of a course. You commit, every course is 8 weeks long. You commit to be 10 to 15 hours a week for these 8 weeks. Only after that you can step down and work. So it's a different model, but it works because, you know what I think, and going to the question that was discussed earlier, there is a fashion and there are trends. Kind of like all the world talk about refugees, people want to talk about refugees, and then the issue is COVID and everyone forget about refugees. Our role as people work on it, and governments, to keep making sure that it's being treated. And there are a lot of goodwill out there. 23,000 people want to help people who cannot afford higher education. That's a huge number of people, and they came to us without us advertising for. So there is a lot of goodwill out there. We should mobilize it and direct it toward the causes that the world need to be helped. Yeah. I hope I answered the question, but if not,
very well. And I guess just as a follow-up for, you're partnering with many prestigious and long-standing universities. You mentioned McGill and University of Edinburgh. What do you think their institutions are learning from you and potentially from your students once they begin matriculating?
I think that John Sexton that spoke earlier, and he was the first agreement that we had with that he facilitated between University of the People and NYU, where our students were able, after a year with us, to transfer to NYU Abu Dhabi. He said it all, because he said, look, we believe in diversity. Diversity is a powerful tool for academics. Having students that are rich and poor and coming from many countries and many backgrounds, that's what makes the university experience so rich for students. Students need to be in this. And he felt like tapping on our pool of students will bring him the diversity that he can never reach otherwise. The first students that we sent to NYU Abu Dhabi was a survivor of the earthquake in Haiti. And I remember him sending me two pictures, one of him sitting after the earthquake in Haiti in front of a hut, really like torn down hut. And a year later, he's in a yacht in Abu Dhabi. And, it's the same person. But so it's an amazing opportunity for him, obviously, a lifetime changing opportunity, but it's also a great opportunity for the other students to get to know this student. So I think that what we offer the university is a different perspective. It's enriching them and their students. And I think that, and we have, as I mentioned, 6,000 Syrian refugees. And I mentioned about teaching them English so they will be able to integrate with the world, because I believe that first of all, for the refugees to see that the world can be nice to them. It's not only bad experience, but also for the world to learn the refugees and to see that they're a human being like me, like you, like everyone else. It's important for both sides. And I think that by doing it, we do something that is extremely important for both sides. So I think that we help our students and letting them move up the ladder with these great universities that we partner with, but it's great for them and it's great for the universities as well.
Fantastic. And we had a follow-up question. We have a number of faculty joining us today. Someone asked, how can they become involved with University of the People?
Oh, okay. YouPeople.edu recruitment, and just go there and volunteer. And thank you for doing that.
There is also a question for Husam about recommendations you have at replicating the scholarship model that you started at Memorial University and on other campuses.
Absolutely. Recommendations. In order to build on a project, a similar project that helps more students and provides opportunities for more students, here are the challenges that we're facing right now that can be improved. And so first, one of the challenges that we faced when we were working on the scholarship is that we had to when we partnered with World University Service of Canada, one of the challenges that we met was that we could not accept applications from students who were not refugees recognized by the UNHCR. So, for example, a student like me 3.5 years ago would not have been able to apply because I am displaced, but I'm not displaced outside Syria. I'm displaced inside Syria, so I wouldn't qualify. So the first thing I would recommend if you're working on a similar project is to try to find methods to include more students. The reason we weren't able to do that is because of the structure of the World University Service of Canada scholarship, that like the process of selecting students involved coordinating with a program that the Canadian government already has of sponsoring refugees. So my first recommendation, try to be able to include more students who need the scholarship, regardless of what the status is, displaced or refugee. You're helping the same group of people, but it's more inclusive. Second, try to build the structure of the scholarship in a way that is self-sustainable and that continues on a long period of time. And that can be achieved in many ways. It can be achieved through large sometimes other universities, other students in other universities have built a similar structure, but without the student levy collected by students, but still sustainable, where they were able to reach out to donors who could contribute a large amount that can generate enough money to sponsor students every year. No matter how you can do it, I think the most important thing is to have it self-sustainable. It's important to not have the program fade away, and to try to help as many students as possible. Like if you find a way of helping one more student every year, it is worth all the effort, because it's not just one scholarship. It's this scholarship that is going to support a student who's going to support other students who are going to support other students, and it keeps going.
Thanks so much. And there was a question specifically for Dorothea about, you mentioned both the need for top-down government action as well as bottom-up, which I think Husam's example is a fantastic one. But someone asked a question. They said there's a lot of goodwill in the middle, especially in the higher education community. And if you have thoughts about how best to harness that goodwill to support refugee and displaced students.
I've seen this question, and I think this is a very important point, how to bring it together and who will be the multiplier. And I think the multiplier could be people, especially from universities, because they have first-hand experience, and what you always need are best practices. What actually Husam or Ehab are doing. This is, and you have to talk about it. You have to get in contact with press or today's social media. Yeah, this plays a very important role. So you need multipliers, and I would say especially universities. And the universities can make clear why refugees are so important for our own societies. It's not only our responsibility, but refugees are a huge added value to us. Yeah, and I think between top down and bottom up might be the academic community, and I think it's their duty, and in general they are very open-minded to this. We had lots of social activities going on at German universities. We started a program support German students or students with migration background, supporting refugee students in the universities as tutors, as mentors, and there was a huge interest. So I think academia could be the right level between top down. This you need, because you always have to talk to politics, and you have to go to the parliament, you have to get the budget to make programs work, to get more scholarships. And you have initiatives bottom up, and in between might be the academia, who could be very important multiplier.
Okay, we have time. Shai?
If I may jump in, I think that it's extremely important, the role of governments. I think that the German government is an example of not only that they give more than any other government, but social issues are more important. By the way, we are fortunate to work with the BMZ and the GIZ, and we receive grant for Syrian refugees. So the majority, many of our Syrian refugees are being able to study with us because of the German government. But I think that governments, when you look at projects, people give according to trends. When they hear about disaster in Syria, people pull up their checks. Then they move to somewhere else. Foundations follow, but they are more stable. Governments are the only one who can set a policy and stay there for long. Now, not a lot of government are there, and that's why I think that the German government is so unique and should be actually praised for doing it. But I think that we should all try to convince our governments to be there and to be there for the long time, because eventually, nobody can replace government. They should be helped by the private sector, foundations, individuals, etc. But they should set up the tone, and nobody can come in their place.
Yeah, and we're nearing the end of time. I thought I would. Dorothea, did you have a?
I just want to add, you are absolutely right. And the big problem is not only people change ideas very quickly, the same is true with funding. And we just had an evaluation of our activities in Afghanistan. And one outcome was, if you want to engage in a country after war, as it has been in Afghanistan, if you want to help to rebuild, let's say, in the field of higher education, this is a long-term endeavor. And you have to invest for many, many years, and it's very sad to say, because now, because of security reasons, many institutions pulled out of Afghanistan, The same will be true for Syria. If there will be the possibility to have to rebuild structures over there in Syria, this will be an endeavor for 10, 20 years at least. And this only can be supported by governments. They must have a clear strategy, and they must have a vision for different reasons, as we all know. But this is very important, It doesn't help a lot to give money just for a year. You can't do very much, frankly speaking. And quite often people are more frustrated afterwards because they have expectations, and then it will not work out in the end. Therefore, I totally agree with you, Shai. It's extremely important to get the governments convinced, to invest funding in this field. And I would say it's the best funding you can do, actually, to invest in people.
So I guess that on behalf of all of us on this call, we should thank you for everything you're doing there, because nobody's doing as much as you do and staying there for that long. So, yeah. Thank you.
And I think collectively, as a government, as the university enrolling the most refugee students in the world, and as student leaders, all of you are doing an incredible amount to increase access to education for refugee and displaced students. We're near the end of our time. I thought just very briefly we could close. We've talked about a lot of different government models, University of the People's work, and then IAE scholarship programs. Maybe just take a minute to hear from Husam and Ehab whether there's anything that we haven't mentioned that you think is critical to supporting you and other students like yourselves, or new programs that we should be thinking of developing.
Absolutely. I think looking at what we've discussed today, I think we discussed very important issues like how scholarships and other programs can help students in general as on a large scale. But I also want to go back and mention that these programs provide life-changing opportunities to students individually. When I was in Syria, I applied to over 30 scholarships, and I kept getting rejections, but I kept applying. It was my only path. I knew if I didn't get a scholarship, I don't have a way of studying. I don't have a way of getting post-secondary education. I'm a student passionate about studying physics and math. That's my only path. So the scholarship that I received from the Institute of International Education didn't just as important as it is to speak about how it helped me work with other students here to create the student refugee program and the scholarship here, the life-changing effect that the scholarship has had on me, and the life-changing effect that similar scholarships are having on thousands of students individually who don't have another path of pursuing their dreams is incredible. And I think it needs to be mentioned that you are changing the lives of so many students through these programs, from the largest scholarships to the smallest program that even just provides $200 for a student to take the TOEFL test. Like I collected the fees to take my SAT and TOEFL test through a GoFundMe campaign when I didn't even know that I was going to get the chance to get the scholarship, to get accepted at all. So these initiatives change lives, and I want to thank everyone who's doing anything on any scale to help students whose only path to pursue their dreams is these programs and these scholarships. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I think that's Ehab, anything you want to add?
Yes, absolutely. Like, we have to work always to increase the number of scholarships to include more students. It's not just only about some of you students we can help. There is a lot of other students in Syria waiting for their chance to get the opportunity as well to have higher education. It's very important to raise the voice of those people and trying really to be more responsible on the need of those people to access higher education. If this is not possible to have them here where we are right now to access the higher education, let's keep the work we try to doing by online to provide the education where they are and trying really to give them the access and the support there. I believe, like, we are as refugee students, we affected really by the pandemic this year. It was not easy for us to come across the pandemic with a lot of challenge to live in as well and to study online as well. It's not easy, and always appreciated from IIE, as I'm IIE scholar, to receive a scholarship for the pandemic as well as support to be able to have a laptop or to have more extra stuff can help me doing my online study. But maybe other students, they don't have the support, and this is help as well. Thinking about how those young people, how those refugees affected by the challenge we live in more than any other people, it's very important. I would to thank everyone who really always trying to work hard to try to change our lives, to give us the opportunity as young refugee to access higher education. And as all of you said, we're doing that because we're looking for better future for us, for our country, for the future of our people as well who living there, and we cannot forget them where they are.
Thank you both so much, and thank you both for inspiring us and reminding us why we do this work. And thank you to Dorothea and to Shai for all that you're doing in this area. Please continue to join us. We have 2 sessions coming up. One tomorrow at Eastern Standard Time, focused on the Middle East and Africa, and then one tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is scheduled to accommodate our colleagues in Southeast Asia and the partners that they've put together to do this work. So I hope you all will join us, and I want to thank you again for joining us this morning, and for all your work you're doing with IIE and through your own institutions.